In today's Leeds news, no change on Farke position. This weekend's loan watch, Tanaka decision explained, update on Ramazani injury, and rumour mill story on Gonzalo Garcia move. Morning folks, welcome back to The View. Jer here on the 24th of November with your Leeds United news. Tough morning for everybody. Really, that one last night or yesterday stuck in my throat a little bit. I'm sure it's stuck in everybody else's as well. A really tough one to take, considering we went in at half time with a lead. Very good first half by Leeds, exactly the way you want to see Leeds United playing. And then the second half drop off that we've seen before from Leeds United happens. And again, the topic of the manager will be up for discussion. It is one of the stories today. It's not a personal thing. I don't have a personal issue with Daniel Farke. It's done an awful lot of good for Leeds United, but we are a Leeds United news channel and we'll be covering the topic as and when it comes up. We won't overdo it. We're not going to put out tons of videos on the manager, but we will cover the stories as and when they pop up. But it was, again, as we said after the post-match review yesterday, it was always likely to be a topic of conversation, and we'll get stuck into it this morning. We'll start off with that one and get it out of the way. So yeah, as I say, this was always likely to be the topic of conversation, the fallout from yesterday and Daniel Farke's future at the club after another defeat for Leeds United yesterday. It's 4 losses now in 5 Premier League games for Leeds United, and Leeds have finally dropped into the relegation zone and have lost that point per game average that the board and the manager have been talking about all season. And as you can imagine, the topic of the security of Daniel Farke's job has been at the front and centre of the press's mind, as well as yesterday and today. Farke was asked after the game whether he has been given any assurances from the Leeds United hierarchy around the stability of his future as Leeds United manager, and Daniel Farke had the following to say. No, we don't have to speak about this topic because this is not a topic I think 1 second about, and it's really not. It's not a question that I worry 1 second about. The loss now leaves Daniel Farke with the lowest Premier League points per game average of any Leeds United manager to have managed more than 5 Premier League games, and adds to his personal Premier League record of just 9 wins in 61 Premier League matches. There's lots of context to that, obviously, as well. But yesterday's first half, as I say, was exactly the way we wanted to see Leeds United play. It was a throwback to the start of the season against Everton and Newcastle. It was aggressive, we were compact, we were tight to their players, and we actually rattled Aston Villa an awful lot. They were having arguments with the referee, they were arguing with each other. It was exactly the position you want to put a side in, especially at a very noisy Elland Road. But then the second half started and we saw the drop off that we've seen in 6, 7, 8 games. Look at the momentum graphs from the last 6 or 7 games. And it's there again, and some players looked leggy on the 60th minute, and the fans in the stadium were chanting for a substitution to be made on the 60th minute. And outside the enforced change in the first half for Anton Stack, Daniel Farke waits until the 70th minute to make the changes. As I say, my comments around Daniel Farke are never personal. They just relate to the news stories and the topic worth talking about every single day. But he's now going to have to go and try and get points against the likes of Chelsea, Manchester City and Liverpool in the next couple of weeks. And that's not going to be an easy situation to be in. The Liverpool game of all of those games, ironically enough, now looks like the one that Leeds will have the best chance of getting anything from, after they were absolutely battered at home by Nottingham Forest. But it's not a comfortable situation. The current Leeds ownership are very quiet on the topic. Nothing appears to have changed in relation to the security of his job. Obviously, he's not talking about it, isn't interested in talking about it. The ownership seem to be in the exact same position as well. There is crickets and radio silence coming out of Elland Road once again, and it doesn't look like Daniel Farke will be changed as the Leeds United manager anytime soon. So we'll have to look ahead to the Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool games to try and get some points from this block of games, and it doesn't get much easier after those games either. So yeah, as I say, it will likely continue to be a topic of conversation. It's not a personal issue with me. It's just what we have to talk about because that's the news that's out there, and we're a Leeds United news channel primarily, so that's what it is. But yeah, you can let me know down below your thoughts on yesterday's performance. Everyone's entitled to their opinion on this. Just express it the right way. No issues at all with that. But let's move on. Let's talk about this weekend's loan watch. Joe Gelhardt is the first one up, and Joffrey scored again for Hull in their 3-2 away loss to QPR. Played 90 minutes in that game, picked up Hull City's man of the match as well. 8 goals and 3 assists in 14 games for Joe, playing in off that right hand side this season. Charlie Crew, an unused sub again for Doncaster in their 0-0 draw away to Stevenage at the weekend as well. Mateo Joseph started for Mallorca up front in their 2-1 away loss to Villarreal. Was taken off in the 86th minute. No goal involvements in that game for Joseph, but was playing up front rather than out on the wing as he has been in recent weeks. Elijah Ramazani still out for Valencia as they won 1-0 at home to Levante. More update on his situation shortly. Isaac Schmidt was an unused sub for Werder Bremen in their 2-0 away loss to Red Bull Leipzig. And Max Weber is still currently out injured, so no appearance for him for Werder either. Rory Mahadi started for Scunthorpe, played 90 minutes in their 1-1 draw with Braintree and saved a penalty in that as well. Decent weekend for Joe Gelhardt again. Decent weekend for Rory Mahadi. So yeah, well done to the lads on that one. And we'll move on. Let's talk about the Tanaka decision and the detail that's come out around that one. It came on as an enforced change in the first half for Leeds United and was one of Leeds' best players in both halves, from his tackling to his work rate to his passing, his progressive passing on the pitch as well. He completed 29 of his 30 attempted passes while he was on the pitch, but he was taken back off with 20 minutes to go in the second half, and that had a lot of people scratching their heads watching the game as well as in the stadium as well. Anton Stach has been confirmed that he will now miss the Manchester City game next weekend after picking up a concussion after a really nasty fall for the first goal where the back of his neck landed on the side of Emi Martinez's boot. But yeah, bit of vision issues. He was talking to the physios around the time he was taken off as well with that. But yeah, he is now out of that game with a concussion. But the decision to remove Tanaka in the second half has now had some more confirmed detail. Tanaka had picked up a yellow card in the first half, and in the second half, just before he was taken off, he went into another challenge where the referee had told the fourth official that had he not played advantage, Tanaka would have picked up a second yellow card. Farke was told by the fourth official that he was now running the risk of a red card, and Farke after the game said that he didn't want to take Tanaka off, but was told that he was running the risk of a red card if he didn't. Tanaka was visibly frustrated with being taken off, as was the reaction around the ground and online, but Tanaka would have likely backed himself to have managed out the rest of the game and not picked up a second yellow card. But given the situation that Anton Stach is out of the Man City game with a concussion, Leeds couldn't afford to have a situation where Tanaka out suspended for the game as well. So tricky situation there. It negatively impacted Leeds how they played. You brought in all the strikers and then you lost the progressive passer from midfield to link the play with them. It did have an impact on Leeds, but it's a tough one. It's a tough decision. I personally wouldn't have taken him off, but you can't have a situation against Man City where you're missing both Stach and Tanaka in that game, and it's likely to be an Ilya Groove that has to come in and deputise in that situation. So yeah, not an ideal situation at all. Let's move on. Let's talk about Largi Ramazani's injury situation. Largi Ramazani's start to life in Spain hasn't gone the way that he would have liked so far. After a very positive start, he's missed several games now with a thigh injury, and it hasn't really helped Carlos Corberan's issues at Valencia at this moment in time. Valencia are dealing with a mini injury crisis, and Carlos Corberan explained this weekend that Ramazani is still likely a little bit away from making his return. Speaking to Dario AS, Corberan explained that Ramazani is still a while off getting back involved with the first team, and he said the following: "Now we have to see in the training and the match load, the muscle injuries picked up by Diakabi and Ramazani were long-term. The expected return date with both is the same." Corberan explained that Ramazani is likely 10 days to 2 weeks away from being part of the Valencia matchday squad for their upcoming matches. We'll have to keep an eye on that. He's still a very strong possibility of returning to Leeds United in January. We have got a recall clause in his contract. The situation around that is if Leeds let him go because they thought they had Facundo Buonanotte in the door, that didn't happen. Leeds have been left light on that right hand side now as a result. Whether he will play or not is a different question for a different day. But Leeds may be in a situation where they have to look at bringing Ramazani back in January. So it will be good in the meantime if Ramazani can get back up to full fitness and get as much game time as he possibly can and come back at least sharp if he comes back at all. And again, that is very much a different question for a different day around whether the manager would play him or not. Right, we'll get into the rumour mill stuff. I'll give you an update on Gonzalo Garcia. If it's not your thing, no problem. It's the last story of today. We'll have a little top chat about the Daniel Farke situation towards the very end of this again. But I'll give you an update for everyone else who's interested in that. If you're not into that, I'll see you tomorrow. Right, let's talk about this. And this was a head wobbler last week, I think is the best way to put this. I don't think anybody thought there was any reality in this transfer actually happening, but it was out there, and some of the bits and pieces around it made a little bit of sense. But according to reports last week, Leeds were interested in a loan signing with a £17 million obligation to purchase Gonzalo Garcia from Real Madrid last week. The loan and the obligation was the bit that made sense. Leeds' current PSR situation meant that it's going to be tight enough in January unless they sell some players. So getting a player on loan now and kicking the fee on until the summer makes a little bit of sense from a Leeds perspective. But reports in Spain today state that the striker won't be coming to Leeds, at least for now. Report says that Xavi Alonso has stepped in and has stopped the move of Gonzalo Garcia. It hasn't said whether that's stopping a move permanently to any club or whether it's just a situation where he won't be coming to Leeds United and getting involved in a relegation scrap, whether they want the player involved in that type of situation or not. It's not clear at this point in time, but as I say, it always felt like a pretty unlikely signing. But Leeds are going to have to do something come January. There's question marks now over the quality of the recruitment team, the question marks over the decision making of the ownership, question marks over the manager's in-game management, and question marks over the players' mentality, especially when it goes in to second half. So I've been pretty quiet on this. I made my opinion last week on Daniel Farke's future at the club pretty well known in the podcast. I don't tend to over celebrate a point. I made the point, I'll stick with it. I said if he didn't get a win against Aston Villa, would need a change, and I stick to that. I think at this point in time, Leeds need to consider making a change because Farke is not willing to change the style, the formation, the setup, the tempo of how Leeds are approaching games. So unfortunately, that sits with the manager, and Farke knows that himself. He said it himself that results dictate the narrative around any manager in football. And that's the situation we're in. So Leeds are going to have to do some stuff in January. They're going to have to change things around the place. It doesn't look like he's in any jeopardy right now of losing his job. But personal preference would be at this point in time, I think it would be the best decision for Leeds would be to try and make a change and try and change the fortunes, or at least the vibe around the place in the short to medium term at least. But yeah, you can let me know your thoughts down below. Outside that, back tomorrow morning with the Leeds United news, and then the podcast is out tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your day if you can, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.